Let's talk a little bit about Blueprint function libraries and Blueprint macro libraries, because they seem very similar, but they have somewhat different uses. So let's get started at how to make them. In the Blueprints subcategory here, we can choose a macro library or a function library. We've already talked about Blueprint interfaces in a different video before, so we're not going to cover that today. Let's get started with a Blueprint function library, and we'll call this something like extra math. If we open this up, what we'll see is kind of like a normal actor, except that it doesn't have any components. We can't add variables to it. It's only a list of functions, as the name implies. So what we'll do in this case is we'll make a couple of math functions that are usually annoying to deal with. So the default function here, let's make something that gets us the average of a bunch of floats. We can do that with an integer array by default, but it doesn't have a version for floats. So what we can do is we can say something like average float array, and that will have a input for, of course, that being floats, and we'll make that an array. Call that something like float array. This is just an example, of course. And then what we can do is we can do a for each loop, just like we would do in any other scenario. And there we simply say, hey, we add a local variable and we'll call that total. This works the same way as making any other function on any other actor, but now what we'll be able to do in a moment here is we will be able to call this function from anywhere inside our project, which is really, really nice. So what we can do is we can say our total will be able to be set to our total plus whatever this new array element ends up being. And it will do that for all of them. So that way we can total up all of the values. And as a matter of fact, that in itself is maybe potentially a very useful function to have. So let's change this to total float array. And just once this is completed, we will return the value of total. So we will just drag that in here and we'll have that total value. Now we can just make a new function as well. And now we can do the average for a float array. And the wonderful thing is we can, again, just make an input here, a float array. And this will now be able to call the total float array function as well from inside of this same function library. So we can just kind of pull that through. The word context doesn't matter in this case. We get the total out of it. So that's just a existing function. And then we can get the array length, which is the amount of items that are in this array. And we simply say, hey, we want to divide our total by the amount of entries we have, and we want to return that. So we return that as our average. And just to keep going with one more example, we can do plus equal, which is a thing that I always come back to because it doesn't exist by default inside Unreal as a Blueprint function anyway. So I always give it as an example of something wild like C++ more, but we can just make it right here. So we can say, hey, add two floats. So this will just be two single floats. So this will be our float reference. That's going to be the float that we want to end up increasing. So that will also be set to being a pass-by reference. I have a separate video on pass-by references if you don't really get what that is about. And then we'll get the value to add, which will not be a pass-by reference because it doesn't need to be. And then with that, we can set a variable by reference, which will simply be our float reference plus our value to add. And that doesn't need to return anything. So now that we have that plus equals as well, we can actually make our total thing a little bit easier too, because we can just say, hey, our total plus equals that with our array elements. And again, the word context object doesn't matter in this case, so we can just do it like this. And all of these functions are now calling each other from within this function library, which is kind of neat. But if I now go into just a random actor that existed in this project before, I can also very easily call the plus equal, or the total float array, or the average float array functions. These are just functions that I can now call wherever and whenever. And this function over here can be a pure function instead. I don't know that this one can be, actually. I set that to pure off screen. I don't think it can be because it does have some execution going on. But anything that is not a execution function, so anything that doesn't have these pins over here, you can set to a pure function, and that way when you call them, they become one of these smaller green nodes. It's just nice to be able to do. So that is what a function library is. You usually group these together where they like thematically fit. So we have things like extra math. You could make a separate function library for things that have to do with like actual location calculations or whatever. That's entirely up to what you want to do with it. But then what is the difference between that and a macro library? Because we can also go into here and we can make a macro library. What is the exact difference there? And the answer is the difference is actually quite small in a lot of ways. I don't really think that this is all too useful, but a macro library will be based on a parent class. So we can choose any class in our game. So that's custom Blueprint classes, custom C++ classes, custom whatever. And we can then access all of the information that is on that class. So we can, for instance, make a function library here. Let's say call this character macros. And where in our math extra, if we want to like get character movement, it doesn't do that because of course it doesn't have any idea what a character is. It doesn't have any like references to that. So we would need to have a parameter in for a character or an actor and caster to a character, and that's just kind of where this falls apart. Now, if we have our character macros, this is inherited from the character class itself, meaning that we can do anything that we can do in the character itself in here without any trouble. So we can very easily get the character movements, if I spell it correctly, and that's just a thing that we can do. And whatever character blueprint that we use this function then on, or this macro rather, it will just use itself as a reference. What this is doing is instead of calling a function that exists elsewhere in the code, it's just using these inputs and outputs, everything you put in between. It's just condensing all that into a node that you can call very, very easily. But it is not actually a separate function call. So if I go into my event graph, you can ignore all this. That's just from a previous video. We can say our new macro that doesn't do anything because we haven't programmed anything into it. But actually, this is quite useful to be able to show, because what we can do here is we can just select a handful of nodes and we can collapse this into a macro within this blueprint, and that then just creates a macro here. So I don't know what this was, something debugging related. And then we can just call that same macro every single time, and it's just a slightly more compact way of dealing with things that take a lot of nodes. A macro library is just something that does that for anything that is of a specific class, or the children of that class. And other than that, it works very similar to making functions. We can give them inputs, something like, let's make something that sets our character movement speed. So we say speed, that will be a float input, and then the output will be, it doesn't necessarily have to be anything, but let's make the is updated, for instance, just for the example, to be honest, and check whether or not the speed that we're trying to set was something different from what it was already. That might be useful information in some cases. So we can get the walk speed, and we can check whether or not that is equal to the speed that we're trying to set it to. If it is, what we do, we put that into a branch, and then we hook up these execution pins as well. It's a little bit messy the way I'm doing this right now, but I'm just showing it off to you. And unlike a function, this is also important, a function can have multiple return paths, right? We can have as many return nodes in a function as we want. For a macro, that works slightly different. The way you do that in a macro is you can see we have these inputs and outputs, and that includes the execution, which I generally like to be on top. So those are just inputs and outputs. So we can just say, hey, we want to was equal, and that will be a execution. and then we can also make an execution for was not equal. So we'll do that, was not equal. And this is the way you make a lot of the nodes that you know that have multiple different output pins. There's some other things that have to do with that, but we're not going to get into that right now. So instead of doing a bool, we can just do two different execution paths here. If they are already equal, we can just output it like that. If they weren't already equal, what we can do, just set max walking speed to whatever the speed we inputted is, and then that will go into the was not equal path. And let's call this set movement speed. And now, back in our third-person character, we can just call a set movement speed as a macro, which takes in a execution and a speed, and then has two different outputs depending on whether or not it actually updated the speed to something new or not. That is how we can use macros. Still very, very powerful, still very good and nice to be able to use. Personally, I think the function libraries are a more important thing to get a good grasp on, but you really need to understand when and how to use both in order to make the most of them. And a very big thank you to all of my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help out supporting the channel, there's a link down below in the description to the Patreon page. And a special thanks to my Cave Digger tier Patreons, Sir J. Thomas,